the long-awaited featherweight title bout. AJ, man, listen, we had to go through TUF 29, man. This was a fight that was supposed to take place before that. I think a year ago in March when this fight was supposed to take place. Volkanovski got COVID. History has been written since then, but it's finally here, man. Number 2, Brian Ortega, man. T-City, the new invented. Brian Ortega 2.0, post Chan Sung Jung, the Korean zombie. This is a different guy we're talking about. But still, Volkanovski opens up as a minus 175 favorite with the plus 145 comeback for T-City, Brian Ortega, man. I got to ask you off the bat, did TUF 29, I know they tried to do a little bit of a job hyping it up. It felt a little boring to me in terms, or I know you didn't even watch it, but it felt a little boring to me in terms of the narrative that they're trying to play around it. But the big thing, I'll summarize it very quickly for you, AJ. Volkanovski says, Brian Ortega shows up late to practice. He has yes men around him. You're unprofessional. You can't be a champion if you're unprofessional. I'm professional. That's why I'm champ. That's why I'm here. Do you agree with that?
Not really. Not really, man. I think, don't get me wrong, I do think punctuality and professionalism is a key to success in life. And if you're over there dicking around all the time, probably not going to go far in life. But there was one thing that Volkanovski said in the interview where he was talking about that professionalism. He's like, when my coaches tell me what to do, I go in there and do it. Like, yeah, cool, awesome. It also means he's following. He's a follower. He's
Sure.
in that mindset of that champ mode where he was saying where Brian Ortega, he'll tell people, nah, like, give me some, I'm gonna do this. He's a lead dog on this one. He's the top dog. He's the one controlling everything, and that's what you want when you're the champion. You want to be the one controlling everything, every outcome. You want it to be your way. You have going for you. Whereas this could go both ways, because if you're listening to your coaches, you're doing the right thing. You're staying positive. You're staying in control and letting everybody else make things the best way for you. Could work out your way. I don't really play into the whole. He showed up late. He was doing his hair, blah, blah, blah. Man, it could just be a mental game that Brian Ortega's doing to Alexander Volkanovski and getting a little bit under the skin and teaching and telling him, yeah, you're so hyped on all this and all that. Well, check it out. I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm still going to whoop that ass. Do you put a lot of weight on the whole professionalism and all that aspect?
Well, listen, man. I mean, we worked together for a while. I think, if there's one thing about me, I show up early. I'm always, you know what I mean, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes early, because if you on time, you late. That's just how it goes in my book. I'm a very punctual person. Part of that is due to anxiety and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, man, I do think it counts for a lot in terms of building character. Now, does it determine your success in life? Nah, I don't think so, personally. You know what I mean? Because, listen, you're not showing up at a corporate office gig, man. This is the fight game. You do whatever the fuck you want. Like, that's what it comes down to. And I will tell you, since I've been rolling jiu-jitsu, man, having like real Brazilians over here at the gym and whatnot, listen, man, some people, they run on Brazil time. Like, it is what it is for us too. You know what I mean? Like, they show up a little late, but they come hard every single day that they're there. They come hard, they come prepared, and they come ready to go, man. You know what I mean? These brown belts, these black belts might come, 10, 15, 20 minutes into training, 30 minutes into training. But when they come, they're giving you everything they got. They're showing up, man. So I don't think punctuality determines whether you're going to win or lose a fight or any of that stuff, man. And listen, Brian Ortega got some real killers in his camp, man. I mean, listen, he is a first-degree BJJ black belt under Henner Gracie, man. Like, that's Henner Gracie. I mean, come on, that's like direct lineage from the main Gracie family. Come on, what are we talking about? So, at the end of the day, narrative aside, man, this is just a really fun matchup versus a striker wrestler versus a boxer grappler. And, so Volkanovski is the striker wrestler. Brian Ortega is the boxer grappler. But don't get me wrong, Ortega got fun spinning kicks, elbows, all the fun stuff as well. And I think that what's been really apparent is that T-City has evolved from T-City. I feel like people don't really call him T-City anymore. Now he's just Brian Ortega 2.0, because you don't just think, oh, he has to get you to the ground and submit you to win. No, he could knock you out, man. He literally uppercutted Frankie Edgar into oblivion. I think that was like the first time Frankie Edgar had ever been knocked out, right? But Alexander Volkanovski, he said it best in his pre-fight presser, and I truly believe this. He says, yeah, it was easy to do all that stuff that you did against Chan Sung Jung when he's just standing right in front of you, not moving his head, not doing anything. Against me, not going to happen. You're going to fight my fight, which is very similar to the way he did against Max Holloway. But this is what I wanted to ask you, AJ. Styles make fights. And Alexander Volkanovski, though he is the champion, he only has, one title defense? And that was against Holloway. So you won the title against Holloway. You got the title defense against Holloway. Maybe that was just the perfect opponent and the perfect style to suit him. Brian Ortega is a different battle in and of itself right there, man. So I wanted to ask you that. Do you think the matchup is going to shed a little bit of light into maybe just how good Volkanovski truly is?
I 100% think so, Derek. And this can be debated for eons going forward. But if Alexander Volkanovski actually won the fight against Max Holloway, I don't think so. I went and rewatched the first one and the second fight. And I got to give it to Volkanovski on the first one. He put it to Max Holloway. He definitely won that first fight. Biases aside over here, because we know we team blessed over here. He got the first one on him, no doubt. And the only reason I could even possibly see somebody giving Alexander Volkanovski the second fight is because of the late takedowns. Even though he didn't do shit on the ground, even though there was no damage, and Max Holloway was able to stand up on both of those, the only reason he lost the fight was because of takedowns, because of points. He lost the fight because of points, bro. You don't lose a fight because of points. You lose a fight because you got your ass whooped. All right, ran aside. Now, can Alexander Volkanovski do that against Brian Ortega? No, because you take Brian Ortega down, he's going to tap you out. I don't think it's not even close to the same kind of fight, man. You do that against Brian Ortega, he's going to throw up a triangle, he's going to choke you out, going to make you look stupid. Now, is that going to be a hole in Alexander Volkanovski's game going forward? We're going to be able to see that, because if Volkanovski is able to take Ortega down and actually do some damage, then I'm going to have to eat my words on this one, because then it's going to be something interesting to see that we haven't seen happen yet before. And that'll be able to show the light of Alexander Volkanovski going forward. Do I think that's going to happen? No, man. Brian Ortega is a new dog in this day, man. And I don't think you can win the fights on points with Ortega going forward on that. What do you think?
You know what, man? I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It's going to have to be a completely different game plan fighting Brian Ortega. But at the same time, man, Volkanovski is an animal, bro. Like, watching his fights against Darren Elkins was very telling to me. And I know Darren Elkins, you know, even though he's been resurging and he's been getting some wins when people have been counting him out, he had a pretty rough skid, and he's not the fighter that he once was. But when he fought him, this was obviously before he had the title and all that, man, he was able to walk Darren Elkins down. He was able to drop Darren Elkins multiple times. We know how good of a wrestler Darren Elkins is, man, the damage, right? And we know he's there to get hit, so knocking him down isn't the most impressive thing. But I will say it was a very, very telling performance for Volkanovski, because he's able to kind of stand right in front of you, but he's constantly feinting, moving, changing levels, right? He's just giving you so much different things to think about. Leg kicks, blah, blah, blah. I think at the end of the day, what the X factor could be for Volkanovski in this fight is he's just a busy fighter, man. I think he could be busier than Brian Ortega. That's part of what won Volkanovski the first fight against Holloway, right? He was just busier. Calf kicks all day long. And believe it or not, they add up, man. They get counted. So at the end of the day, Brian Ortega is going to have to use more than just the boxing. You're going to have to switch up the takedowns and the boxing and the kickboxing and kind of do everything in there. Throw up the big knees, the big elbows. But it's going to be hard to deter Volkanovski, I truly believe, man. I just think the man fights with a confidence. He fights with the air, and I think he doesn't fight with a lot of emotion in the cage. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, all this animosity they're trying to build up. I think it's like Brian Ortega said. He's like, we're just trying to fucking build this fight or whatever, and he's doing a shitty job. He's not even a good fucking salesman for the fight, right? And I kind of agree. But I'm not going to lie to you, AJ. With the narrative specifically, Volkanovski's grown on me a little bit, man. You know what I mean? He seems focused. He seems like he's ready to go. And that's what I love, is the dude who's just focused on the task at hand. You need that to be a champion, to remain a champion when everyone, you know what I mean? You got a target on your back. Everybody's coming for you. But let's talk about last fives real quick, man. And you just tell me what stacks up to what. For Volkanovski, we got Max Holloway twice, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, and Darren Elkins. It's pretty damn tough for our last five. For Brian Ortega, Chan Sung Jung, Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson, and Hanato Moicano, man. The only loss came to Max Holloway. That was the only one. That was a TKO round 4. But the other ones are very, very impressive, man. Which one's more impressive to you?
They're both extremely impressive. And I think you have to go Volkanovski on this one, just because it's all 5 dubs with little asterisks right there. If you think he actually got that dub on Max Holloway on the last one. But what does it for me, what pushes it over the edge for me for Volkanovski, is that Chad Mendez fight. Yeah. Man, he absolutely put it to Chad Mendez. If you know anything about Chad Money Mendez, he's a hard man to put out, and he dropped him in round 2, man. That's the craziest thing. And Volkanovski, he has grown on me as a fan. Like I said, I'm team blessed over here, but Volkanovski has done a lot to actually make it, you know, make himself a staple in the division. I know he's a champ, so obviously he's a staple, but in everybody's minds, he's also very, very dangerous. You know, he likes to be the bully. And what I like about it, you said it before, he stays composed. Even if he's getting, the fight put to him, he stays very composed, and he's very methodical in there, And I would agree. Brian Ortega does have a lot of very, very hard wins. Renato Moicano, Cub Swanson, Frankie Edgar. Those are all very killers in there, man. Very dangerous people in the fight. But I'd probably give it to Volkanovski. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I would agree with you just because I mean, you look at it, it's two of the arguably the greatest champions in featherweight division, right? With Aldo and Holloway, and then you got Chad Mendez, a former title challenger, and Darren Elkins was just come on, man, Darren Elkins is the damage, right? However, we're talking about champion and Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar for T City, right? And then Chan Sung Jung. I mean, he's basically right there at the press, at the cusp of being championship talent. Cub Swanson and Renato Moicano, yeah. And when we're talking, but that's really it for Brian Ortega when we're talking about notable wins, right? When we're talking about Volkanovski, you still also have, I guess that's it too, man. You have Shane Young. I guess not very impressive, right? So you know what, man? There's a lot to be said. I do think that they're not at the pinnacle either of these fighters. I think they got a long way to go still, and they're gonna have bigger and badder names on their resume. But at the end of the day, AJ, Volkanovski's a little busier, man. 6 significant strikes landed per minute at 55% clip. For Volkanovski, about 4 at a 40% clip for Ortega, man. How does that make you feel?
I mean, the numbers play out correctly because you definitely think Volkanovski is a lot busier. And that's one of the big things he likes to do. He likes to be the bully. He likes to be the pressure fighter. He likes to be the one controlling the octagon. Do you think he's going to be able to get that done against Brian Ortega? Do you think he's going to be able to walk Brian Ortega down and be the bully? Because in the last fight with Brian Ortega man, he was the one doing that. He was a bully to Chan Sung Jung, which normally Chan Sung Jung is the one walking you down and doing all that. What do you think?
Well, Ortega has the one thing that we always love, right? It's the thing that we love against, like Ronnie Yaya, for an example, right? You can walk forward with reckless abandon because it's like, yeah, take me down, please, dude. Let me lock up this triangle real fast, dude. Please, welcome to my world. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's going to be a really interesting challenge that I think Volkanovski has the skills to be able to solve, but I think this is gonna be a really close fight. I don't think this is gonna be very definitive one way or the other personally, unless someone gets just an early submission or a knockout or something like that, right? But if it goes to decision, I think we're gonna be talking about either split or very like someone lost by 1 round, you know what I'm saying? Something like that, right? I wanted to ask you lastly, man, because it seems to me like you're not even really thinking about it, but this is something that I think that Volkanovski's submission game is very underrated, man. Very underrated. He has a really good standing guillotine, man. Like really, the guillotine is like the main bread and butter. He only has 3 subs on his record in total, right? Never been submitted himself. His only loss has come via knockout, only once, right? But I see him I saw him try to lock that up multiple times against the damaged Darren Elkins, and I'm not sure if he got one against Holloway, man. But it's just something where they're coming up on you, and he just slips that thing underneath, either to kind of like distract you and get away or to actually try to lock it up, man. So he's a brown belt, man. Do you take that into consideration in this fight?
I would a little bit if he was taller than Brian Ortega, because if you got a tall guy locking up a guillotine on you, it's almost impossible to get out of it. But he's 5'6", 5'8". It's not really. You got a little man trying to hit a guillotine on you. You could basically just pick him up with your own head. So no, I don't really play into the whole Volkanovski's talent on the ground, especially you're going against Brian Ortega. I think there's levels to that game, and Brian Ortega is miles ahead going forward on that one. I definitely think as far as the show goes, though, one of the cruxes I think of Brian Ortega's game is Volkanovski's a better coach, man. He has a better mentality of the game, and he has better people around him that are kind of thinking about other things that he's not necessarily thinking about. Where that's a pro to Volkanovski. He's able to let those people do their job and get a better idea going into the fight. Where Brian Ortega, he's amazing. Him himself, he's an amazing coach, but the people around him aren't necessarily the top tier in all aspects. Don't get me wrong. They're very top tier going forward. But there was a couple times in the show where I was in, and like you said, I barely watched it. I watched a little bit of that show, but I didn't watch the whole episodes. But there was a time where Brian Ortega's coach was telling the guy, like, knee him in the knee, knee him in the leg, knee him in the leg. And the fighter was like, okay. And just drop that dude. So I think that comes into play a little bit more in this fight than a lot of people are letting on. I think the coaching of both sides is going to be coming to a factor in this one. What do you think?
I agree with you, man, because if things are correct in my notes, I have Volkanovski fighting out of freestyle fighting gym and city kickboxing, and we already know that there's a lot of talent over there. But for Brian Ortega, I have him fighting out of Black House slash Black Belt Surfing Team. I have no idea what this Black Belt Surfing Team is, but I know Black House is a very, very good gym. I believe Jason House is the guy that is running the gym over there, and Mackenzie Dern, she fought over there. There's a lot of it's a gym specifically. It's a private gym for like professional fighters. It's not just like a gym you could just walk into and be like, hey, let me sign up. No, you got to be legit to be in this gym. So I think he's got good people around him, man. Let's not forget, dude. T City has one loss. Both of these fighters have one loss. Each, right? T City was the next hot big thing. He loses to Max Holloway. All that steam went away. Now he's back. And let's not forget, the man is dangerous. But Volkanovski, man, 19 fight win streak. That's kind of unparalleled at this game, right? I think the last person to have a streak that was like that was Weili Zhang, and hers was probably like 20-something, right? 20, 21, something like that, right? So should be a fun one, man. And believe it or not, Volkanovski actually has a slight reach advantage, 2 inches, man, 71 to 69, man. So kind of weird how the shorter fighter has the reach advantage, but nonetheless. Alexander the Great versus T City, Brian Ortega, man. And still or and new, man. You tell me.
Man, I'm going and new.
Sheesh.
Brian Ortega all day, but I think it's going to go to a decision on this one, man. I think we're going to see a very close fight. It's going to be very back and forth, a lot closer than Brian Ortega would like it. But I think the styles make the match on this one, man. Volkanovski cannot depend on getting a takedown for scoring the points on this one. Yeah. If he does get that takedown, Brian Ortega is going to be working that ground game, man. And unlike in the Max Holloway fight where Max Holloway tried to stand it up again, I think the reason why he lost the fight was at the end of round 5. He tried to go for a takedown himself. Volkanovski turned it around and got the win on that one. You know, all credit to Volkanovski, but I don't think Brian Ortega is going to be playing that game, man. I think if he gets it to the ground, it's going to be game over. Like I said, I'm going T City by decision. Brian Ortega, who you got and why?
I'm going Alexander Volkanovski. I'm going and still on this one. And the reason why is, don't get me wrong, I am a big T-City fan. I've been a fan of him way before he was in the picture of like, yo, this man could be fighting for a title. So seeing his rise has been incredible. But Volkanovski, man, there is a little something about that professionalism, that focus, that poise that I think has and still written all over it, man. Just seeing what he was able to do against arguably the Blessed Express, man, Max Holloway. That was very, very impressive both times. Yeah, we're saying second one. A little fishy, right? But nonetheless, I just think that the man has the poise and the will to win. That's the thing. Will is a different thing, right? And I think he has that chip on his shoulder of, you're not taking this shit from me, bro. You're not taking my belt. You're going to fight my fight. I'm leading the dance. That's what it's coming down to. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm leading the dance. And for that reason, I do think it'll be a decision fest as well, man. UD for Alexander Volkanovski or a split decision, either way. And I think that will probably set up. Hopefully, we get the Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. That sets up, so we get the third fight for Volkanovski versus Holloway, hopefully. But I will also say this, man. The last thing in terms of the wrestling. I'm always a fan, right? Because I think that we give a little too much credit to the jiu-jitsu guys. This is an MMA fight. If a wrestler can get on top of you, get into half guard specifically, and just smother you, ground and pound you, there's not much you can do if you're a jiu-jitsu guy if you cannot establish your guard. So that's the main thing that I want to point out. Brian Ortega is a different level. This is a different caliber of jiu-jitsu guy that we're talking about, right? But that's just the thing that we need to take into consideration. It's not like if Volkanovski goes to the ground with Ortega, he's immediately done. He's a really good wrestler, you know what I'm saying? So he stands a chance. So just putting that out there, folks. But at the end of the day, the line is close for a reason, man. This can go either way. And if I was you folks, I'm not going to say do whatever, but plus 145 for Brian Ortega, that's kind of sweet, man. I kind of like that, man. So throw a little value on there because to me, this should be closer to that Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler pick'em style. Brian Ortega is a very unique threat to Alexander Volkanovski in this one. So I'm going UD Volk. You're going UD Ortega, man. May the best man win.